How do we differentiate these days? When there is a commoditization of products, we differentiate with customer experience, streamlining processes, minimizing efforts with customers. Providing value to customers is not just with products and services, it's actually with the experience.
You're listening to CX Passport, the show about creating great customer experiences with a dash of travel talk. Each episode, we'll talk with our guests about great CX, travel, and just like the best journeys, explore new directions we never anticipated. I'm your host, Rick Denton. I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Let's get going. Y'all, how have we not been to this country before? Well, at least, how have we not had a guest on CX Passport from here before? It is one of my favorite countries in the world. Well, today we get to correct that error by heading to Italy to talk with Ilenia Vidili, a driving advocate for customer centricity, a celebrated keynote speaker, and an accomplished author dedicated to revolutionizing business practices through improved customer experience. Since 1998, Ilenia has been at the forefront of customer strategy, CRM, and customer experience, collaborating with brands across many industries. Her mission is to guide businesses towards customer-centric transformation, urging them to rethink processes, prioritize human connections, and elevate value for their customers. Through these speeches and immersive workshops, Ilenia has enlightened leaders and C-level executives at organizations like Coca-Cola, KLM, and one of my favorite places in the world, Harrods. You'll want to grab a copy of Ilenia's best-selling book, Journey to Centricity, which serves as a roadmap for leaders seeking a journey towards customer centricity in the era of stakeholder capitalism. Beyond consulting as a dedicated member of the European Women on Boards, Ilenia advocates for gender diversity and equity in corporate leadership, amplifying voices, and fostering inclusion in boardrooms all across Europe. When she described herself to me as a digital nomad starting at age 19, I knew Ilenia would be perfect for CX Passport. Ilenia, welcome to CX Passport.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick.
You know, Ilenia, I'm excited to have you on here. This is fun, not just because of Italy, but because of what I've seen you talk about and content you're putting out there on LinkedIn. And one of those topics that you spend a lot of time talking about, your headline just champions it. It is all about customer centricity. Now, that's a phrase that we hear a ton. We also hear it misused often. What does customer centricity mean to you? And then why is it actually important to a business?
So since I started my career in corporate marketing years ago, I noticed that there is a big clash between how businesses think they do business and how they actually do business. So an internal perspective and an external perspective. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is a sort of like contrast, you know, how customers want to be served and how businesses actually serve them. And this is the way I started my experience in the customer experience world, by noticing how these two entities would behave, right? So there is also a really interesting study by Bain & Company that reveals this contrast. 80% of surveyed companies say that they deliver superior customer experiences. But then when customers were actually asked if that was true, only 8% of customers agreed.
Right.
So this is the kind of contrast that I often talk about with companies. Yeah. And this happens because companies usually have this inside-out perspective in thinking. Mm-hmm. And that means focusing on internal goals like outperforming competitors, putting the best product in the market, and focusing very much on internal capabilities, right? But we need to really think that fulfilling customer needs, it really starts by seeing the world from the customer perspective. Listening, understanding those customer needs and expectations, and doing all the efforts and commitment to try to fulfill those needs and expectations with our products, solutions, services. And when there is a problem that shows up by a product that we sell. So this is what customer centricity is about. It's customer-centric approach. It starts by looking from the customer perspective and incorporating that perspective into all aspects of a company's operation, into all aspects of departments, level of seniority, etc. And another aspect that I see and that I believe is important when we talk about customer centricity is that delivering a good, positive experience once, twice, or occasionally doesn't really make us a customer-centric business. We need consistency, commitment, and care. That's the kind of misunderstanding that you talked about a minute ago. Sorry, not misunderstanding, misuse of the word.
I will want to get into that a little bit, Ilenia, that once, twice, three times, that because you're talking about that sustainability, that process, that discipline, that execution around customer centricity. I want to ask kind of two threads, though, about what you're saying about customer centricity, 80% versus 8%. Any of us that are customers are going to kind of laugh and smile and nod, right? We know that customer service sucks out there. It is not a surprise to any of us. And it's not a surprise that companies think they're the best thing ever. They've got posters of customer centricity and the customers first and all that sort of stuff. So that's not a surprise. What is it when you're talking to a company about customer centricity? How do you help them understand, look, this isn't just some soft, fluffy idea. This is actually tangible business value. How do you guide them from customer centricity as a concept to this is going to affect your bottom line?
So the first thing I learned when I first worked for big multinationals like Bayer, Arm, NEC, etc., was that there isn't any other factor in business that offers a better ROI than listening to people who buy from you and serving them the way they want. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple sentences that answer that question.
Yeah.
When we talk about, of course, like customer centricity is something that it feels like it's fluff. It feels like it's soft. Why though? Because customers are not very seldom seen as a priority in businesses, right? Yeah. Sales are seen as a priority in business. The bottom line is seen as a priority in business, right? Revenues and cost and budgeting and targets, etc. One of the biggest problems that I see in companies today is wanting to boil the ocean. In other words, wanting to do a huge cultural transformation all at once. You know, everybody wants to be customer centric these days. It's the new trend, it's the new kind of cool thing to be, right?
Right.
But then if we don't have that commitment, especially from the executives and across the organization, it's really, really difficult to do. It's basically impossible. And my advice with my clients is to start with small steps, prioritize what are the biggest challenges for the customers, the biggest pain points for the customer and for the business. Resolve those, measure the success of those small improvements, and show tangible results to the executives, for example, if we want to get the buy-in that we are looking for. And if we want to show that it's not just a soft thing or it's not a fluffy kind of strategy that we want to implement because we want to copy others, right? So that's the kind of solution, if we want to call it as that, and proof that we want, that we need.
This is your captain speaking. I want to thank you for listening to CX Passport today. We've now reached our cruising altitude, so I'll turn that seatbelt sign off. While you're getting comfortable, hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Love it if you'd tell a friend about CX Passport, leave a review so others can discover the show as well. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
There is also misunderstanding on customer centricity that we often think and hear that customer centricity and being a customer centric is delivering memorable experiences, right? And we talk and hear a lot about these memorable experiences.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of adding customer delight on top of bad processes and bad experiences, for example, right? Which is mostly what happens in companies, right? It doesn't make
Right.
any sense, really.
Right.
But what really, really matters to customers is to minimize effort, minimize friction as much as possible. That's what really gives us improvements in the customer experience. That was really give us the first layer of loyalty that we're looking for.
Oh my gosh.
So,
love every bit of this. Ilenia, like you have hit on two of my biggest passion points. Like I'm feeling this just absolute CX connection to you right now. And that is, don't go after the big thing, go after the small incremental wins and gain your buy-in. Right? Because how much of CX has been historically, we've lost our buy-in because we're not showing tangible results because, well, sometimes we didn't even think about results, but other times we tried to do too much. Show the tangible business results, you'll get the buy-in. And then the second part is, it's really easy to be great once. It's really hard to be good all the time. And you're describing exactly that. Deliver on your brand promise in a consistent, stable way. And your customers will find that loyalty towards your brand. I love every bit of that. You have spoken to my heart, Ilenia, today.
I'm glad that we aligned.
Yeah, well, and I'm not surprised seeing what I've seen you put out there. You have a course out there that talks about customer trust. And I find that to be an interesting phrase. We don't talk about that phrase that much. And there may be a little kind of feeling that we have around it, but I'd like to know more about what do you mean by customer trust? And then what are the results a company should expect when they really focus in on customer trust?
So I have 2 courses coming out on LinkedIn Learning this summer. One is on customer centricity, which I will expand and talk about the ins and outs of customer centricity, but in an holistic way. So talking about streamlining processes and cross-functional collaboration, breaking silos, all these kind of things that they're not really, integrated into a customer-centric strategy. So that's that. And then, as you rightly said, I have a course coming out on customer trust. So Qualtrics and Forrester have defined customer trust as the topic of the year of 2024. And in very simple terms, trust is making promises and keeping those promises consistently over time. So as we know, is a very important factor that glues all relationships, right? It's the glue of relationships. Right. And if you think about it in business, everything is made of relationships. Our relationship with employees, our relationship with customers, with investors, partners, etc. And so everything, like trust is what ties everything together. Loss of trust can manifest in many different ways, such as poor quality products or services, bad customer experiences, or failed brand promises. Everything we do as a business is we put a promise out there. We build a product. Great. We tell you that product will work for X amount of years. That is a promise, right? And if we break that promise, then we're not going to trust as much that business. A study carried out by Gartner, for example, tells us that 81% of customers refuse to buy from a brand that they don't trust. And 89% of customers expect to disengage from a brand that breaches their trust. So how do we build trust or earn trust? There is this kind of double use of the words. So trust building happens through 4 main drivers. The first 2 drivers, we have competence and reliability. Competence is the ability to perform tasks effectively and efficiently. It entails delivering high quality products and services and demonstrating expertise in addressing customer needs or solving problems of our customers, right? If you have been in a shop, in a retailer, for example, that you were looking for a product and the sales assistant didn't quite know how to answer your questions regarding that product, wasn't quite knowledgeable, and eventually you left the shop without buying, and you left the shop without really trusting much that person or trusting the shop much in their ability to communicate with you and to share the features of the product, etc. The product that they perhaps built or, developed. So this is the first driver. We have also reliability as a second hard driver, and reliability, it depends on two things. It's really based on time, and it depends on two things. One, the first one is responsiveness, which involves how the company shows up on time or answer questions. And the second one is consistency of behavior over time. So if you noticed, for example, sometimes you call customer service agents and they'll tell you, oh, I don't have an answer right now. I will find an answer. I'll find a solution for you and I'll call you back in, say, 2 hours. And then you never hear from them.
Yeah.
Right? They don't call you back. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of lack of reliability. That's the lack of trust. It creates a gap, a trust gap.
That competence and reliability, I see a very logic embedded in that, right? It seems very, tangible. It's something that I can really almost even quantify, whether I quantify it or not. Yes. What are the other two factors like?
So the other two factors are called the soft drivers. One is integrity, and the other one is empathy. So the integrity involves honesty, transparency, ethical behavior. Integrity for customers means doing what's right ahead of what's easy, and so we see this in everything, like in every product we buy or in every interaction we have with companies. Every brand promise that we see out there, every sort of communication we see out there, if it's not kept and maintained, that brand promise, then obviously there is a trust gap created. Right. So, for example, I'll make an example. Say that, errors and mistakes happens all the time. For example, these days we have a lot of issues with customer privacy and, customer data and etc. There are a lot of customer data breaches, for example. And many companies are not able to honestly and transparently communicate what happened.
Right.
They try to hide things and they try to find easy solutions. But actually, customers are much more forgiving when there is transparency and honesty behind a big error.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of integrity that we're talking about. I'm just making a very easy example about it.
Sure.
But we also have empathy, is the ability, as we know, to understand and share the feelings of others. So in terms of customer trust, it entails to recognize and understanding concerns, experiences of our customers. And it really answers the questions such as, do you understand me as an individual customer? Do you understand my experiences? With all the technology and AI we have in business these days, we shouldn't really leave empathy and the human touch aside.
Amen.
Because it's just so important. So we earn customer trust also by demonstrating empathy, by actively listening to customer concerns and frustrations. So that's also an important factor for earning customer trust.
I love what I really enjoy about that is kind of that middle observation there of, hey, these are logical and these are emotional. And I'm grossly simplifying it because there's actually repeatable things that you're describing in there is when it comes to integrity. Yes. Did a company follow the process of communicating clearly when something bad happens, right? We know bad stuff happens, but what did you do with me when that bad stuff happened?
Exactly.
Did you restore my relationship? And so those two things, that brings a lot of clarity into what customer trust is, why we need it. Ilenia, I certainly have a greater understanding of customer trust now. I want to take you in a completely different direction because this is CX Passport. We've got our passports out. We love talking travel here. And you mentioned being a digital nomad starting at age 19. Those years have to have been fascinating me on the road. A lot of us fantasize about the digital nomad life. You've lived it, both the good, the bad. What was that like? And how has it influenced your approach to customer experience today?
Good question. Good question. So I left Sardinia when I was only 19 years old. I left first in Spain, and then I traveled across Italy, and then I ended up being in the UK for my studies.
Okay.
That's where I spent the most of my 20s, actually. Then I left again the UK in 2017, went traveling for another 2 years, where I basically started my nomadic life. And working at the same time. That was solid. Yes, I mean, I had a wonderful experience, a wonderful life experience, setting up my business, the business that I'm running right now, setting up my business, and at the same time traveling across the world, discovering new cultures, and really enjoying life on a deeper level. So when I was only 19 years old, my aim was to travel and discover the world. And then when I left to the corporate world to set up my own business and travel at the same time, I had experienced not only life and travels on a different levels, but also working at the same time, earning money at the same time, which was fantastic. So I discovered that I didn't have to be tied to a desk and be closed up into a cubicle to experience things. And it was so enriching, such an amazing experience of freedom, of independence, and but mostly freedom. You know, it feels like just you get up and you see the sunlight and it's beautiful. Whereas when you have to work in an office, you get up, yes, you see the sunlight, but you need to be closed in a cubicle for 9 hours a day. And right. when you leave the cubicle, you don't see the sunlight anymore. And that was depressing. And then, so I loved it. It was amazing. That's what I can say. And I learned so much. It led me in Asia, my travels, where I first started my business in Singapore, doing consultancy and training programs for companies in Singapore. And then I realized that if I wanted to grow the business, I wanted to go back to Europe. What I realized really was like the difference in cultures, difference in how customers want to be served in different countries, right? Their expectations and needs in different countries. And also how businesses behave in these different countries, like the leadership style, management styles in different countries. So it's very diverse, you know, and it was beautiful to experience it. And I recommend it once in a lifetime. I recommend it to everyone to do an experience such as this.
Ilenia, I totally would love to do that kind of a digital nomad lifestyle. Would love to get out there. I did a taste of it when I came out of university doing the cliched. Did a taste of it when I did the cliched backpacking trip after university for a month. But I was in Europe. It was a month. But I do know this. It was a grittier lifestyle. And there were times that I would have loved to have taken a break in a first-class lounge, a lounge in general. And, well, that was a little beyond the backpacking budget. But today we get that opportunity. We're going to take a little break here. We're going to stop down in the first-class lounge, move quickly here, and have a little bit of fun. And you may have several, what is a dream travel location from your past? Ooh, yeah. Was that part of your
Bali,
nomad,
Indonesia.
Or was this just a vacation that you were on?
No, I lived there for 8 months. It was part of my nomadic journey. It
wonderful.
Was beautiful. It's Bali is such a different world. It's a completely different world. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, we could spend the whole podcast talking about that because you saw my eyes light up and just almost get to feel it's a little chilly here today. And so I love the idea of being on some warm ocean breezes. Maybe that's on my future. What is a dream travel location for you in the future that you've not been to yet?
Japan. I would love to.
Oh, man. So Japan has come up multiple times in the recent past on this podcast. So whatever energy is out there, whatever Japanese tourism board is out there, it's working because people talk about it all the time. I had the opportunity to go, listeners and viewers know this, about a year or so ago when my son was studying abroad there. Brilliant place. Love it. So yes, get there. Food is fantastic. The people are wonderful. And my gosh, the logistics are spectacular. I love it. It's just so easy to get around.
Service.
Absolutely. Am I going to get this right? Omotenashi, I believe, is the term. And it is a brilliant Japanese concept. If I've slaughtered it, I apologize for those of you that know the Japanese language better than I do. What is, Ilenia, a favorite thing of yours to eat?
Love Italian food, obviously. And Porcini risotto is my favorite dish.
Ooh, yum. Oh, that sounds delicious. And it's 9:30 in the morning. I shouldn't be hungry. And yet, oh my gosh, that sounds really, really good. Let's go the other way. Something you were forced to eat while you were growing up, but you hated as a kid.
Beans. I really did not like beans.
Okay, there's something here. Now, the episodes may not release back to back, but yesterday I recorded Francesca, and I'm forgetting her last name. I apologize, Francesca. And she's Italian living in France. And her answer to that question was beans as well. So I gotta do a little exploration of the Italian culture to understand this aversion to beans. It's just interesting that 2 days in a row that's come up. I can understand it though. Let's go back to travel as we exit the lounge here. What is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, that you will not leave home without?
My camera. Is that allowed? Not phone camera, my camera.
You know what I love about the way you answered that question? It's not what you answered, although I like the what. The way. What's one thing? Camera. I mean, I barely had finished the question, so I can see how capturing those photos and those memories are vital to you. We spent a lot of time talking about customer centricity. We've talked about digital nomad life and that sort of aspect. You've got another side of the work that you do that I really want to explore, and I want to know more about your work with the European women on boards. What has the impact of that been on you personally and on the wider community of professional women?
The impact it's had on me personally is the understanding of the gap between men and women, the equality gap in businesses, especially in leadership positions. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't quite aware until I joined them. And so what they do, they create programs for women to, well, first of all, they create awareness. Mm-hmm. That's important. They create allyship with men. So they prepare men to be allies for women to go into leadership positions, but also they prepare women to be in leadership positions. So what we're trying to do really is to close that gap and to align men and women to earn the same, to be treated in the same way, to have the same rights. Right. You know, so that's the kind of work we're doing, and I love it. It's a beautiful community, and it's so needed in today's society.
You know what I'm intrigued, you can hear my brain kind of freezing a little bit. And that is, it's a shame that something like that is still needed. And yet I'm so glad that it does exist, because some of the things you're describing, equality, shouldn't that just be a basic right? And so yes. there's times that I what I'm thankful for organizations like that are what you just described. And that is like visibility. And even sort of overcoming maybe even the fatigue that people like me or you or others out there that might be like, wait, why are we still focusing? Well, because we need to still focus on this. And I admire an organization like that. And I'm glad that you've been involved in that.
Yes.
And folks, I'll get it into the show notes, the link, so that you can find out more about that and find out how you might advance that mission as well. Ilenia, we have come to the end of our time together. I don't want to leave, though, without asking you this question. It's March, and by the time this releases, it may even be several months into weeks into April or even May. We're well into 2024 at this point. So all of those early year predictions, beyond all the kickoffs. So now that we're past all that beginning of the year hype, what matters to your clients now? When a potential client is reaching out to you and says, Ilenia, help, what are the pain points that they are seeking to solve right now?
So most companies come to me because they're experiencing different challenges, such as loss of relevance due to commoditization of products, low customer satisfaction scores, and difficulty in engaging and retaining customers. These are the three main pain points that I see, but especially the first one, loss of relevance due to commoditization of products. This is the main one that a lot of companies ask me.
That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that answer, the loss of relevance. It seems very, very logical when you say it. How, if we can amplify and pull at this thread just a little bit longer, how are you helping folks with that loss of, if it's commoditized, what's the solution for a company in that scenario? Or solutions,
Improving
right? I don't want to be too
experience.
simplistic.
No, of course. But how do we differentiate these days? We differentiate with high level of trust. We differentiate with excellent customer experiences and customer service. You know, when there is a commoditization of products, it's because there are so many products out there. And that's the way we differentiate these days with customer experience, streamlining processes, you know, minimizing efforts with customers. That's the way that that's the way that companies want to improve their processes and operations, you know, that they reflect eventually in the customer experience. So providing value to customers is not just with products and services, but it's actually with the experience as well.
We're ending right there. That's it. We are stopping. That is the episode. Ilenia, listeners, viewers, if you heard or saw nothing else, listen to that last section because you hit on so many things that I love and believe. Experience is what matters. Process and execution. Love every bit of that. Ilenia, if folks wanted to get to know a little bit more about you, your book, European Women on Boards, where should they turn? So
they can go into my website, Ilenia Vidili, or I'm very active on LinkedIn as well, and I share weekly tips on customer centricity on LinkedIn. So they can follow me there, DM me if they have any questions. I'm very happy to help.
Awesome. I will get that link to the book, link to European Women on Boards, that in the show notes. Scroll down, click the links, and get to know Ilenia and all the things she supports a little bit better. Ilenia, I really did enjoy having you on the show today. I do admire, maybe envy a little bit of that digital nomad experience and what that was like and how that shaped you. And then I love not only just the customer centricity explanation, but the practical approach to how it can be created is so important. Ilenia, this was a treat for me. I'm glad that we had the chance to talk today. Thank you for being on CX Passport.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. If you like today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. Click subscribe on the CX Passport YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. Next, leave a comment below the video or a review in your favorite podcast app so others can find and enjoy CX Passport too. Then head over to cxpassport.com for show notes and resources that can help you create tangible business results by delivering great customer experience. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.